Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
Where were you on September 11th, 2001? For those of us old enough to remember, the events of that day are forever ingrained in our hearts and in our minds. At Mission Roll Call, we believe strongly in honoring and commemorating September 11th well beyond a day on the calendar. In order to do that, we wanted to share a voice from one member of each branch of the armed forces, sharing their stories and experiences before, during, and after the tragic events of September 11th, 2001. Here are their stories and a reminder of our commitment to never forget. Just tell us a little bit about where you were, what you remember on September 11th, 2001.
So it's a day definitely, like most people, they remember very vividly.
So I had finished my technical training, reported to my ship 9 days before September 11th. September 11th happened and I was in my work center. And I remember that somebody called the phone in the space and all they said was, turn on CNN now, and hung up.
And I heard some noises downstairs, some commotion and whatnot, and about an airplane hitting the World Trade Center. I got downstairs and I was able to get down there in time to see the second airplane hit the second tower.
It was hectic. I mean, when you're told immediately go home, and your parents are coming to pick you up, it's pretty intense. And I think we had a feeling that something was wrong, not knowing what it was. And my sister went to the school 1 block away. And so my mom rushes and picks me up. We run over and grab her from her school. And it was just kind of a little bit of chaos.
And then some guy came downstairs. I can't remember who it was, but he came downstairs yelling that New York just got attacked. 2 planes flew into the buildings, to the Twin Towers.
Didn't fully grasp like what had happened yet. And so, basically every class was just glued to a TV the whole day.
And we're like, holy crap, it's real. And it's hard to explain, but when something like that happens, it's like every nerve in your body gets electrified. Because you go into protect mode. And that's what we did.
And so I remember that being very stressful. I remember there being a lot of fear about what does this mean.
So we figured it was done intentionally, and we pretty much kind of guessed we were going into war at that point.
Did September 11th impact you at all in terms of your decision to join the service? And if so, just walk me through kind of what those intervening years look like.
Yeah, it did. Was still kind of up in the air. Didn't know if that's for sure what I wanted to do.
So when it came down to it, I'd already been talking to the recruiters.
I feel like I've always kind of leaned towards helping others and doing things that, where I'm doing acts of service for people.
Yeah, we were terrified and kind of just feeding off of whatever our chain of command did. If they acted like they had some plan in place and this is what we needed to do and a checklist, we feed off that, right? So if you give me a checklist to go do when I'm anxious, that's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of double checking to make sure that we had everything that we possibly needed to deploy.
Had a couple of odd jobs for about a year. And then in 2007, another recruiter reached out to me, sat down, talked to him. And 2 months later, I went to boot camp. And here in the Austin area, we were helping out at the Austin Convention Center as kind of like a makeshift landing spot for them. So we went down and helped out and, care packages or helping, just getting people set up with their cots and beds and things.
As a platoon sergeant, one of the things I always wanted to do was I wanted my troops to know that, I've been there, done that, and I can show them, lead by example. Mm-hmm. And I used my experience in combat during Desert Storm to teach my guys. Before the 9/11 happened, I would make training realistic. I'm trying to make it, I used to put little bombs, little like MAs. And so when they would open a door, the trap would go. And so, yeah, I tried to make it more realistic. But now, once this happened, everything changed.
Bases at the time, you could just drive through them. You didn't have to show an ID card. There was nothing, like no restrictions on most bases. And suddenly the gate guards have a job.
Yeah.
And everything has changed. We were in ThreatCon Delta, which meant we were restricted to the ship. Like, we couldn't even go to the exchange. We couldn't go to the commissary. We were restricted to the ship. And so in those couple of days before we deployed, because we deployed September 19th, we were allowed one night off the ship to go get ready for a deployment. There was a lot of talk about training. There was a lot of training that suddenly spontaneously happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really huge shift. And I remember later talking to some of the folks who were chiefs or senior enlisted on the ship, a couple years later when I was also senior enlisted, listening to them and how that day impacted them. And, a lot of those guys, they hadn't served during wartime. So this is the first time that they'd really been like, oh, so it wasn't just the juniors that were really trying to figure out get their sea legs under them for it. It was kind of a significant portion of the crew that was suddenly thrown into something that they were very unfamiliar with.
You went from, maybe sometime in the future something's going to happen, to something's about to go off, and we need to be prepared. So I ramped up all the training. I ramped up everything.
When you think back then on 9/11, and it's not just its impact on you, but its impact on the military, do you think that it continues to have like this enduring impact on our armed forces?
Things change. People start getting lax. So in between Desert Storm and 9/11, things got lax again. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to be fine. It's just like checking a box.
I think it is always the case that we always criticize the generation that's coming up, right? Even though we did it, right? Like, I am currently raising an 11-year-old son, and I am then going to complain about his generation, and I am going to be part of the problem of whatever it is that the generation does. But these kids, and they're not kids now, a bunch of them are lieutenants running around. They joined when we'd been at war for a very, very long time, and they still made the decision knowing there's a high probability that they'd be part of that war, and they still raised their hand and joined.
But yeah, there was definitely a little bit of separation from the guys who had deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan and those who didn't. So there was definitely, you do see that kind of that change in how people act, how the military functioned, because even just within your individual units, guys who have been overseas, guys who haven't been overseas. Yeah, so all other services are in DoD, and Coast Guard is Department of Homeland Security. So still part of that front lines here in the States, kind of protection and security here.
As a whole, our community, our career field has done so much. And it's really cool to see how our guys are progressing and how they're adapting to the new kind of threats and things like that. And it's, these guys, they're out there, and, we're finally getting some of the recognition that we deserve. I can't get too much into it, but a fellow person that Jerry Shelton, he's kind of filled me on some of the cool things that are getting ready to happen in our career field. So I'm really excited to see that we're getting a little bit of the recognition that we fought for 20 years ago.
But I think this happens between every war. You have the buildup, you have the combat, and then you have the after show. And then you have the quietness in between combat. And sooner or later, that's going to come around. I had a specialist one time tell me that when he got out of the Army, he said, mark my words, and he was dead serious, before you get out, you're going to see combat. And I did.
And that was one of the things that I get frustrated with when people are talking about, like, oh, they don't have this, or they don't have that, or they don't have the character that we had. No, we built that. We built that because we've been at war for 20 years. We didn't start like that. I didn't.
Yeah.
Just like everybody, we grew into it, and that became our culture, and they'll grow into it because it's part of their culture now, and that's our job. Don't complain about it. Fix it.
September 11th is not just a day we remember, it's a day that shaped all of us. In the face of unimaginable terror, ordinary people did the extraordinary. Civilians became rescuers. First responders ran towards chaos. Our military stood ready. And a new generation stepped forward to serve. We were all changed by that day, united by courage, conviction, and the enduring promise to remember. September 11th is not just a moment in history. It's a part of who we are.